Shane Van Gisbergen is furious. Not because he had a bad day, not because the car let him down, but because he did almost everything right at Martinsville Speedway and still came up one position short of where he deserved to be. That is the kind of result that doesn't just sting, it burns. Here's the full picture. Van Gisbergen qualified 5th. A career best on ovals in the Cup Series. He collected stage points in both Stage 1 and Stage 2. He ran inside the top 10 for nearly the entire race. At one point, he was sitting in 2nd place, ahead of Denny Hamlin, one of the greatest short track drivers in NASCAR history. And yet, when the checkered flag dropped over that famous half-mile paperclip, the number 97 Chevrolet crossed the line in 11th. One spot, one single position outside the top 10. After the race, Van Gisbergen didn't sugarcoat it. That pisses me off running top 10 and missing it, he told reporters directly. To understand why that result hurts so much, you have to understand just how far Shane Van Gisbergen has come at this specific racetrack. In his first Martinsville start back in 2024, he finished 12th, then came a 31st, then a 14th last fall, and now an 11th. That is a steady, measurable progression at one of NASCAR's most technical and physically demanding venues. But progression only satisfies you so much when you know a top 10 was sitting right there in front of you. What made qualifying so extraordinary wasn't just the results, it was the context behind it. During practice, Van Gisbergen's car ranked only 34th fastest. That number would have most drivers bracing for a difficult afternoon. But when the one lap that actually mattered arrived, he delivered. He was just 0.064 seconds off Hamlin's pole time, good enough for 5th on the grid. His Trackhouse Racing teammates were nowhere near him. Ross Chastain qualified 18th. Rookie Connor Zilisch started 25th. Van Gisbergen out-qualified both of them by a significant margin, and he did it while dealing with something most drivers would consider a serious handicap. Going into Martinsville weekend, Van Gisbergen was actively switching from right foot braking to left foot braking on ovals. That is not a minor adjustment. It is a fundamental change in how a driver physically interacts with the car, and at Martinsville, a track that demands constant downshifting and precise braking points, the timing couldn't have been more demanding. His solution was unconventional but deliberate. He widened the spacing between his pedals so that physically returning to right foot braking wasn't even an option. He committed completely. It's a lot of timing and repetition that I'm not used to, he said ahead of the race. Qualifying 5th in the middle of that learning process is a remarkable data point about the level of talent Van Gisbergen possesses. The race itself unfolded in 3 very different chapters. In Stage 1, Van Gisbergen was clean, controlled, and consistent. He settled into 6th from the green flag, managed his position, and finished the stage exactly where he started it. In 6th, stage points secured, no drama, no mistakes. Stage 2 followed a similar pattern. The car remained competitive, though Van Gisbergen reported some grip issues coming off the corners. He finished 8th, banking more stage points. Across both stages, he accumulated 8 bonus points, points that would prove important later in the day. Then came Stage 3, and that's where the race turned into something genuinely compelling. Van Gisbergen and crew chief Steven Doran made a bold call, pitting early on lap 268 to attempt an undercut. Chase Elliott had made a similar move on lap 261. When the pit cycle completed, Van Gisbergen had vaulted all the way up to 2nd place, ahead of Hamlin, behind only Elliott. For a moment, it looked like the number 97 might be racing for a win. But the mathematics of tire wear caught up with him. Cars that had pitted later came through with fresher rubber and began working their way past. Then the race got chaotic. A debris caution on lap 312 changed the complexion of the entire event. Elliott, running 2nd at the time, pitted under the caution, a free stop that cost him nothing in terms of track position. It was a massive advantage for the number 9 Hendrick Motorsports team. The race restarted on lap 324, and almost immediately, Bubba Wallace drove into the back of Carson Hosvar, triggering a 12-car pileup. Wallace's car was destroyed. He finished 36th and tumbled from 3rd to 11th in the championship standings in a single afternoon. Van Gisbergen lined up 9th for the next restart with fresh tires. On paper, that's a strong position. In reality, it exposed the one weakness in his game on this day: restarts. Every single time the field went back to green, he struggled to get off the line cleanly. He kept getting boxed to the outside, losing 1 or 2 spots on each attempt and lacking the track position to recover. I just wasn't good enough on the restarts. I'd lose 1 or 2 spots every time and then not be able to get them back, he said with characteristic honesty. He passed teammate Chastain Chastain near the end to salvage 11th, but the top 10 was gone. Over the radio, his message to the crew was simple and telling. "Good job. Sorry I couldn't hold on to the top 10. Up front, Chase Elliott held off Hamlin by just over half a second to claim the win. It was Chevrolet's first victory of the 2026 season and Hendrick Motorsports' 31st win at Martinsville, the most by any team at any single track in Cup Series history. The win arrived exactly 11 years to the day of Elliott's very first Cup Series start, which also took place at Martinsville. Hamlin, meanwhile, had led 292 of 400 laps, swept both stages, and set the fastest lap of the race. Yet left with nothing but a runner-up finish after a missed shift on a late restart and a possible loose left rear wheel cost him. His crew chief called it a gut punch. In a wild statistical quirk, Hamlin actually outscored Elliott 56 points to 55 on the day because he swept stage wins and earned the fastest lap bonus while Elliott collected 0 stage points. The NASCAR media world took notice of Van Gisbergen's performance. Jeff Gluck, speaking on the Teardown podcast, said Van Gisbergen was pretty much the best of the non-Big Three cars throughout the day. Better than the 23 XI cars, better than the Spire cars. Jordan Bianchi framed it in terms of the bigger strategic picture. These are exactly the days Van Gisbergen needs. Solid top 15 finishes, consistent stage points on ovals, and then when the road courses arrive, tracks where he has 6 consecutive wins heading into 2026. He goes all out and maximizes everything. That is the blueprint. Bianchi also noted that other Cup Series drivers are watching Van Gisbergen with genuine admiration, adding, "He's doing it, man. He is getting better and better." The contrast with his Trackhouse teammates makes his results even more striking. Chastain, the same driver who pulled off the legendary wall ride at this very track in 2022, came into Martinsville on the back of 3 straight top 10 finishes and left with a 16th place result. Zilich finished 26th. Van Gisbergen is clearly operating at a different level within that organization right now, extracting results from equipment that, by most accounts, shouldn't be producing them. When you run the numbers, the 11th place finish combined with those 8 stage points added up to a 34-point day. That moved Van Gisbergen to 14th in the standings with 174 points. Under NASCAR's 2026 chase format, the top 16 drivers in points after 26 races advance to the championship playoffs. Right now, Van Gisbergen sits 16 points above the cutoff line. In a format where every single bonus point and every finishing position carries real weight, that margin deserves respect. Every time I've come here, I've gotten better and better. We've got a good notebook now, and I think that is really helping, Van Gisbergen said. And with a wry laugh, he offered one more observation about his career-best qualifying effort. People race much nicer up the front. When I qualified 10th or back, it was pretty aggressive. The Cup Series takes Easter weekend off before heading to Bristol Motor Speedway on April 12th. Another short track, another opportunity. With 19 races remaining and the road courses still ahead, the championship is a very real conversation for the number 97.